I want you to answer this honestly. Have you ever argued with someone through a text message?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well, if so, you're part of the overwhelming majority of Americans that are fexting. As Steph always points out, a great word, right? I'm sarcastic. Fexting means fighting over text. And according to a new study, nearly 80% of people admitted to arguing over text, with the other 20% preferring to handle things over the phone. Half of the people surveyed say they'd prefer to text because it conveys their point better. But over 30% admit they've reached impulsively while texting. Reacted impulsively. Experts say fexting can actually prolong arguments, and it's always better to resolve things face to face. But according to this study, that seems to be on its way out. So I want to ask the panel, have you ever fexted?
Yes.
I don't fext.
Yeah.
No.
Don't fext at all.
I'm not arguing with anybody over a text message. I'm not arguing with anybody in person. If there's a misunderstanding, then have a conversation about it. Maybe there's no misunderstanding at all, but I'll be damned if I am going to sit there and waste my good time and energy to put something in writing to someone, because if you're gonna argue with me over a text message, then that also means that you also don't live by the code of keeping that conversation between the two of us. So if that's the case, then I don't want to have anything to do with you, and therefore I think it's called ghosting, not fexting.
Whoa.
Way to protect yourself.
Okay. I'm definitely not that mature. I'm stunned because that was beautifully said, but I often fext. I actually prefer to fext.
I think what I was
to some people.
What I was doing, because I don't fext, but what I started doing is
you have a halo on your head too?
No,
okay.
no, absolutely not. I felt that just having a conversation without any, just kind of cold calling a conversation, it didn't work. Because if you want to have a conversation and you're getting out your point, but that person might cut you off halfway through before you're done, they might misinterpret what you're saying. So what I started doing is I would send a text about, here's how I feel, and I'd like to talk after this. I'm not going to go back and forth, but this is my point. I told Erica I was going to pick her up. I showed up. She wasn't there. She was at the airport already. That's what my perspective is. So when we come to meet, you already know where I'm coming from. And then we kind of have a conversation, but at least you know the jumping off point so it doesn't get cut off before we get to the actual meat of it. So Steph, what do you do?
Oh gosh, I fexted, yes, but not for, since I was probably like a teenager or something.
Man.
I think there's too much lost in translation.
Yeah.
I really, really do. And I think in the heat of the moment, you can say silly things you don't mean, things can be misunderstood.
You don't think that when you're talking, that's a lot easier to speak impulsively than when you have a second to actually have to text?
No, well, I think everyone's different, aren't they? And it depends. Some people like to collect their thoughts and want to have that time to send their side of the argument or whatever.
Right.
I would much rather sit down in person with someone and actually have a conversation. I don't want to have a phone call because then you can't see the person's face.
Right.
I don't really want to get a text message that then I feel like I either have to respond to or could be misunderstood. I'd rather meet face to face.
All right, maybe.
Tori, it sounds like, did you learn something here?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to me, honestly, I think it's a generational thing.
Absolutely.
I think the next generation is going to fight over text. Fexting is going to be normal. But for me, I have a problem with confrontation. Right. It's very hard for me to have eye contact when I want to say my words. I freeze. I flight. And then it's easier for me to sort of concentrate. But I understand how that's also a very immature way of actually doing it. So I will be working on it.
All right.